It's time now to dive into our next session, and it gives me immense delight to invite and introduce our moderator for this session. Ladies and gentlemen, it's none other than Sonia Shenoy. A leading voice in Indian business journalism, Sonia was Assistant Executive Editor at CNBC TV 18 for over 16 years. A finance and fintech expert, today she's an independent content creator and the host of top podcasts like The Money Mindset, founder F-Ups, and Visionaries of India. Please join me in welcoming Sonia Shenoy. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause.
Thank you to each and every one of you for being here, and it is such an honor to be a part of this evening because this is a topic that everyone is grappling with today. So without wasting any time, let me invite someone who needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Nandan Nilekani is the chairman and co-founder of Infosys, founding chairman of Aadhaar, and a true visionary behind India's digital revolution, a pioneering force in shaping India's digital economy. Nilekani has played a defining role from co-founding Infosys, one of India's most iconic IT companies, to architecting Aadhaar, the world's largest biometric identity program, transforming industries and empowering 1 billion people. Please put your hands together for Nandan Nilekani. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Jitu is an old friend. I've known him for 30 years. We both began together. So it's a pleasure to be here at the Embassy REIT.
Wow, 30 years is a long time.
90s I met him first.
And both of you have come a really long way.
Yeah.
But today, the topic is the advent of AI.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think everyone, from leaders to businessmen to entrepreneurs to startup owners, are all grappling with what's happening with AI, right? So can we start with where we are at, Nandan, in terms of, everyone's talking about India perhaps becoming the use case hub in Asia for AI. Are we there yet? And from your vantage point, where are we at?
No, I think AI obviously has caught the public imagination, especially for the last 2 years since ChatGPT came out. And I think certainly it's a very exciting time to be there, and it's going to make a huge difference to everyone. I think, but the use of AI is still, at least in the business side, is still in the, I feel, a long way to go there. And we have, there's been a lot of focus on models. The different companies have models. My own belief is that there'll be thousands of models. So models are really commodities. They're going to be, you've seen what's happened from China and so on. So lots of models are going to come out. And the value creation will be on the application of this technology to either business or society or government. And that's where the value creation is. And I think India, because of the enormous talent we have, the great companies here who are all customers of Embassy, I think we have a real chance to take a leap on implementation of AI to really make a difference, both in business and in the society.
You've spoken about that many times in the past as well, as to how you are also involved in doing a lot of work in perhaps trying to scale AI across the country, right? So at scale, whether it is for different uses, whether it's agriculture, finance, fintech, language. Tell us a little bit about that. And, how long do you think this journey would take?
Well, I think, to just step back a bit, what we learned when we built digital public infrastructure like Aadhaar and UPI, we learned how to build at population scale, how to build things for 1 billion people, how to make it frugal and cheap, how to make it with small transaction size, high volume, and so on. And we are seeing that Aadhaar has 1.3 billion people, 80 million times a day authentication. UPI has 400 million people, 17 billion transactions a month. So we really create scale. So we have to bring the same thinking to applying AI in India. How do we apply it at the scale of population? Which nobody actually has done that at that scale. And to make it cheap to operate. How to make inference cost cheap, how to make reasoning cheap, how to make sure the farmer in his village is able to use AI at an affordable price. So that's where I think we are headed. The first fundamental thing we need to do in India is language. Because it's a unique country, we have 22 official languages and several hundred languages and dialects. You move 50 kilometers, the language shifts. So I have been personally supporting building the whole language AI for India and funded a group at IIT Madras, which has built the largest database of Indian language, called AI for Bharat. The idea is that if we can get Indians to speak to the computer in their language of choice, dramatically improves access. So if a farmer is able to speak in Bhojpuri to his phone and get the best information on farming, that's where the future is. He doesn't have to read or to key in anything or touch anything, he can just speak. So I think language is a foundational AI for India. Everybody will need, India in particular, for all users. And then it will be about finding use cases. For example, if you look at finance, NPCI has now launched voice payments on UPI. So I can speak to the phone UPI and give an instruction to send money to somebody. And that's just a start. So you'll be able to give more and more financial transactions by speaking to the phone, and there'll be some agent on the phone that will do it for you. So I think we are going to see that kind of thing happening. So the key thing is, how do we take AI, apply it at population scale, make it work in your own language, and make it work in a very relevant and contextual way for your issues.
So when you talk about applying it at population scale, the government is also doing a lot, right?
Oh, yeah,
whether it's the PM Kisan program, whether it's
Yeah.
Vistar as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how far have we come in terms of what the government initiatives are, and what more do you think can be done?
Yeah, I think the government has been quite ahead. I don't know whether you realize, but in Aadhaar authentication, we use AI for liveness detection. So when somebody puts a finger, we have to make sure it's a real finger. And therefore, we do liveness detection. So it's been last 4-5 years, there's AI inside even the Aadhaar authentication. But specifically, I think PM Kisan has been a great program because that allows farmers to ask the status of their the monies they get. And that really has it has at least millions of users. So that's already a live case of a chatbot using AI. And Vistar is an implementation for agriculture. So that's based on an open agriculture network. And many states are rolling it out in the next few months. And the idea is that the knowledge for a farmer can come from anywhere. Market data will come from one side, crop data from somewhere else, soil data from somewhere else, weather data from somewhere else. How do you bring all these various data together in a way that's consumable by a farmer in a language of his choice in an instant conversation? So that, I think, in the next couple of years, you'll see some really good deployments of that. And then I think India will learn from that. Then, of course, there's the other thing which is happening, which is the AI mission, which Minister Vaishnav has been talking and leading. So they are talking about supporting the development of models. So I think there's a lot of action going on.
In fact, recently, I think Mr. Vaishnav was talking about 14,000 GPUs and, lots in terms of data sets and, everything that's required for India
Yes. I
to
think
move
the
forward.
other good thing they're doing, because AI is all about data. And I think there's a systematic plan to create public data sets. So even the AI for Bharat is a language public data set. So the more public data sets are there, which are anonymized, so it's not about personal data, then more people can train their models on that data.
He also, made this joke about how India should at some point have its own LLM models. I mean,
Yeah.
OpenAI need not be called OpenAI anymore.
I think building LLM is not a big deal. At Infosys, we have built 4 SLMs, 2 billion parameter SLMs. We know the technology of building at least SLM, so 2 billion parameters, which you can then take to 7 billion, 13 billion, 20 billion, 70 billion. So there is a question of more CPUs and more data to crunch. So I think that technology now has become widespread. And there also, you have to give credit to the DeepSeek guys, because they showed you could build these LLMs for much smaller amounts than the guys in the valley, and they have published all the know-how of how they did it. So now the knowledge has become universal. Everybody knows what to do. So I'm not particularly too hung up about saying we should develop an LLM. We should develop, no harm. But if you can get the use case first, make it work at scale, then which LLM you use, you can replace one with the other.
So there are many people here. I mean, most of the people here are people who run teams, people who manage large businesses, large organizations, right? The one big fear that everyone has in their mind is what happens with jobs. And it's not so much about the challenges as much as it could be perhaps about the opportunities. What do you see the way forward? Not just for people who are entering the job force, which is a huge number, by say 2050, 2035 or so, but also from a managerial leadership level, what are the changes that one should do?
No, I think that's a great question. I think definitely AI will improve productivity of software development. We're already seeing it with this Copilot or Cursor. There are a zillion dev in many, each day there's a new announcement of some product, right? So I think it'll definitely improve productivity and a lot more can be done with less people. But on the other hand, a lot more things have to be done because AI will force the envelope on new applications, new use cases. So it'll create new opportunities. The other thing is enterprise AI, where companies use AI, is very different from consumer AI. So consumer AI use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google Gemini or whatever. But enterprise AI is going into your firm and transforming with AI. That's a longer haul because companies have lots of technology, they have duplicate systems, they have legacy stuff from many years back. The data is in silos. So you have to bring all that together. So there's a lot of work to be done inside firms to organize themselves for AI. So there's a lot of work to be done. While some part of it will get automated, a lot of new things will have to be done. So I'm comfortable that also I think the Indian workforce, we have the largest Gen Z population in the world and they're all very tech savvy. And think about it. The Gen Z are people born after 1997. So they were 10 years old when the iPhone came out. So they've been born to this world, right? So I think they will quickly adapt to this AI world. I have no doubt. I think so India will actually, the number of people who will use AI to actually solve real problems, this will be the biggest place.
So how does India capitalize on that? What are the 2 or 3 things that, leaders or managers or business owners need to do in order to make sure that this demographic dividend is something that we capitalize on?
Well, I think first of all, we have to do some massive work on reskilling and getting people ready for this AI revolution. And therefore, firms that invest in the infrastructure and the training and the learning and all that, that's very important. You cannot do this without investing in your human capital to get them ready for this AI revolution. So that's like table stakes for everyone. Also, I think it's very clear now that this AI stuff is okay for some things, but where human messiness is involved, it's not really all that great. So, your ability to lead, to align different people to a same goal, to collaborate, to form teams, those human skills, empathy, those skills will never be done by AI. So I think we have to get especially our leaders to be ready for much better human skills to lead in this world of AI.
So leaders have to be ready with more human skills. I hope all the leaders here are listening. But what about the young, perhaps young entrepreneur or young student who's entering the workforce? How does he upskill or what are the skills that he would need in this new AI world?
The 2 skills are human skills, people skills, and thinking from first principles. Ability to get to the conceptual basis of what you do. Thinking from first principles is very important because the middle stuff will get automated. The coding, you'll use some Copilot or something. So I think that's both human skills and thinking from first principles is what we need. But also the good news is that you are going to see in India an entrepreneurial surge. 10 years back in 2015, we had maybe a few thousand entrepreneurs. Now we have 150,000 entrepreneurs. And my estimate is by 2035, we'll have 1 million entrepreneurs. Because we're creating a virtuous cycle of entrepreneurship. Companies are going successful, then people leaving, starting new companies. That whole thing is in a virtuous cycle. So all those guys will use AI to solve very key issues in India. So I think if you imagine if 1 million smart people solving problems with AI, something's going to happen, right?
I hope so. I mean, at this point in time, people are approaching it more with fear and little bit of,
No,
discomfort.
look, it's a massive
rather
change. It's a massive discontinuity in the way we did things. And I think, so people are rightly concerned. But I think we have to embrace it. It's here. We can't stop it. The genie's out of the bottle. We have to now work on mastering it, applying it for good purpose.
So you were talking about, the advent of AI at scale, right, in India. You spoke about language, you spoke about agriculture. There's another area that your focus is on, which is education as well. Tell us a little bit about that and how do you think, because, I have a young child and I do read a lot of articles about how in the West, people are now, or at least schools are now programming using AI to give differential education to children depending on what their capabilities are.
Sure.
So just education in India at scale, how can we use it?
And actually, when you think about it, there's a set of children who have access to the best education. They're able to read, write. They have an iPad to put them to sleep and all that. So that's, I don't know whether your kid is doing that, but
Thankfully not.
so what I'm saying is that they are well served. But the real challenge in India is children who can't read or write or do math. Because in our public schools, while they go to school, they don't learn. So our focus is on them. If they are able to read and write, then they can join this other category of children. So we are using AI to enable children who can't read or write or do math to learn those foundational skills. And they're using AI to help diagnose what are the gaps in their knowledge and helping them to practice. It's really like using AI to practice those skills. And it's being rolled out now in 4 states. So I think if India's future is its human capital, the human capital is not educated enough to do basic things, read, write, arithmetic, then there's no future, right? So that's what, at least when we say education, we're focusing on these foundational things. Because the people who have the phones and get the apps, there's plenty of stuff for them.
Yeah, I agree. So there are, a lot of industry veterans sitting here. And in the next panel as well, we'll be speaking to people across industries, whether it's automobiles, insurance, CRM, etc. Talking about sectors, where do you see the maximum disruption happening because of AI? And what do you see as the changes, say, over the next 5 to 6 years? I know 5 to 6 is a very long time because lots is happening
Can't
now.
predict that long. But we are seeing, because at Infosys we work with thousands of companies around the world. We are seeing activity in every sector. Certainly, financial services is a big one because that's an area where there's no physical stuff, right? It's all digital. So people are applying it for credit. They're applying it for chatbots, wealth management assistants, all kinds of things. So in each area, I think there is stuff happening. And I think what's exciting is that the applications are so varied, right? So a pharmaceutical company can use it to discover new drugs faster, or a company making batteries can use it to discover new materials faster, and so on and so forth. The fact that you can accelerate the pace of innovation using AI by discarding all the dead-end options and honing on what will work is a new thing that we have now. So that'll be big.
And from your vantage point, when it comes to global, not dominance, but once again coming back to the point that we started off with, India becoming a use case hub for Asia, for the world.
For the world, not Asia, world.
For the world. Are we there yet, you think?
No.
Or is it?
It'll happen because you have the talent, you have the problems to be solved. The AI knowledge will permeate everywhere. There'll be millions of entrepreneurs. They're going to solve problems. There's no question about it.
So what is Nandan Nilekani going to be doing next in this field of AI? I mean, you have always been at the forefront of every innovation over the last 40 years.
Okay.
Whether it was IT, whether it
You're
was...
betraying my age now.
whether it was IT, whether it was Aadhaar, UPI, AI, I mean, any revolution and, you're right there in the front.
No. I like to be relevant and, keep ahead of everything. So there are 4 things I'm working on, which if you want to really know. AI, of course, is a big part, but it's not just AI. I'm working on an idea called the digital energy grid. And how will energy get transformed from a model where you have a big producer, say a thermal plant that sells to every house, where every home is now a producer of electricity because they have a rooftop solar, they have an EV car, so they can store it, they can buy it, they can sell it to the neighbors. Suddenly, energy is going to become like UPI. It's going to be millions of small transactions.
Renewable energy.
Huh?
Largely renewable.
Because of renewable. Every home will have a rooftop solar. Every home will have a battery. And, price of energy will fluctuate wildly because in the daytime when the sun is there, prices will drop. At night, it will be expensive and so on. So I think this kind of a dynamic thing of energy is something. So I've just come out with we have come to the paper with the IEA on this, on digital energy. So that's one other thing I'm doing. And then we're looking at the idea of the Finternet, which is how do you tokenize assets? Because just in India, for example, 50% of assets are in the form of land. I'm sure makes Jitu very happy. But land is illiquid. You can't easily, if a guy owns a half an acre in a village, you can't sell it easily. It's paperwork, all that. So if you can tokenize land assets, we can unlock the asset, he can sell it, he can get a loan against it. So tokenization is a very important way of bringing in fungibility and liquidity of assets. So we're working on that. And then another area which from Infosys working on is high performance buildings. Infosys actually has built 55 million square feet of. We are like a real estate company only. 55 million square feet of
What
office.
is high performance buildings? What is it?
Essentially, how do we make buildings super efficient, consume less electricity, less water, less air?
More sustainable.
Yeah, more highly. And that now we have published all that 15 years of learnings on how to build high performance buildings. And we feel that in the next 15 years, India is going to get built out by people like Jitu. How do we get those buildings to all be super high performance and reduce their environmental footprint? So that's one more thing that I do.
I think, do you have more than 24 hours a day?
No.
I mean, how are you doing so many things?
I don't do any of this. Somebody does it, I just guide them.
You just get that brainwave and then the eureka moment and then you pass it on.
I delegate well. I don't do anything myself.
Okay, but that's very inspiring. So coming back to just some final thoughts before we move on. When we talk about AI and we talk about large use case in terms of AI, any big challenge that you see for India, for leaders, for business owners that looks tough right now to perhaps overcome and something that the government should work on?
No, this is not a government thing. I think how do we make the AI accurate? It does not hallucinate. It does not have bias. That's the challenge of this AI stuff, because it's okay, in a consumer app, if it gives 1 out of 10 wrong answers, it doesn't matter. But for a business, the brand of the business is behind. Its reputation, all that is there. So when large firms apply AI, they have to think about reputational thing. And therefore, they'll be far more cautious about rolling it out, because if something goes wrong, it'll rebound on them. That's one point. The second point is AI is a unique situation where regulations are happening even before the AI is coming. In most of the areas, regulation, like in data privacy, Internet began 2000, data privacy law came in 2018, 18 years later. Here in real time only, every country, every state is issuing regulations. So when large firms design AI for the world, they have to make sure how does it work and in a responsible way as per the rules of that region. So if you're in Europe, you may have some rules, UK some rules, India some rules, and so on. So it's a whole new dimension of being regulatory compliant from day one across multiple jurisdictions. These are new things for technologies. Technologies have not thought about regulation so much as they're now being forced to.
Absolutely. And things are changing by the day,
Exactly.
right? Earlier things were changing by the decade, then by the year.
Every day, every morning you get up
something new.
Either there's a tariff or there's an AI model.
And then the next day, either the tariff gets, reversed or something else happens in AI.
Correct.
But what is your worldview, by the way? I mean, there's so much uncertainty with respect to tariffs and what's happening in the West. Where do you think all of this is going?
I don't think anybody knows. If anybody claims he or she knows, then I don't think it's true. I think we just have to ride it. But there's so much in our control. I mean, we can build great companies, we can build new solutions, we can change lives of people. That's all within our grasp. So I'd rather focus on things we can control than try to worry about things that I have no control over.
Okay, one final piece of advice, since you have so many, like I said, so many leaders here, one piece of advice that you'd want to give them with respect to AI and how they should sort of move forward?
I think they have to keep themselves current and curious, because the avalanche of knowledge now is extraordinary, right? We're getting so many things. And how do we, go through all the noise and find the few signals in the noise, because noise tends to distract. And then that's why the first principle thinking is very important. And really keep on top of what's happening. That's very, very important for today's leaders. Because if you take the wrong turning, you could go off into a cul-de-sac. So I think it's very important to be on top of what's happening and distinguish the signal from the noise and focus on the signals.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give Nandan Nilekani a big, big round of applause. And thank you so much, Nandan, for joining us here.